What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos. And today, we're finally back in the Battle Chamber. This game is taking place during our Chris Ayers Appreciation Night. Shout out, rest in peace, Chris Ayers. We all decided to, most of us decided to play Frieza or like Frieza-themed decks. I think out of the 15 players that we had, there was only maybe a handful of people that didn't actually play a Frieza leader, but it was a good time. I had fun. I took my stab at life flip Frieza, and it was a little rough, but it was fun. It's one of the more fun decks I've actually piloted. Even though sadly I went 0-4 at locals this weekend, it's okay. It was for the memes, but it's a really interesting deck, and I definitely wouldn't recommend taking it to anything major. Like, if you have fun winning, don't play this deck. But it was really interesting to see how the plays lined up. So this is actually during round 2. I'm playing Life Frieza on the right. We have Joshua on the left playing Cooler Mill. We're just rolling and getting everything ready and set up here. Shout out to Gamer's Edge for hosting the most consistent local, probably in the tri-state area. We average about, I want to say, 12 to 16 players a week, which has been nice. The community there is really, really great. Joshua is one of the newer players, but he's been on the grind, and he's definitely stepped it up and picked up his game in the last couple of weeks. So he's going to go ahead and start off by charging a multicolor red-blue. That's Hercule Boo, and he's going to pass turn and off to me. So here we go. We're going to draw here. We're going to place an energy in charge. We're charging the Divine Transformation. We're going to tap 1 for Taguma. Is that Taguma or is that Ginyu? Yeah, that's Taguma. He allows you to basically tap 1 and draw a card. We're going to go ahead and swing at lead. Combo the Taguma for 9. Not do any damage. You kind of want Taguma in the drop area, because when you have 2 energy, he does stuff for you. Like, he helps you, play stuff out of life. So I don't want him on the board. I mean, it might have been a little bit of a waste, but knowing that my opponent is playing like a reducing battle power strategy, I just want to see if I can get some value out of it. So Joshua's going to go ahead and charge his second energy. Looks like that's the Janemba Unison. He's going to swing at my leader, 10k to 5, draw a card on the auto. I'm going to flip a life and activate my field card, which is going to go ahead and tap his energy down. Which, honestly, if anything, this deck, that field card effect is really nice. Every time you flip a life face up, you get to tap one of your opponent's cards. It's just really nice. It'll help trigger things like Bergamo. It'll help trigger things like Poutine. And it just your opponent has to play around that. So, as you can see there, I chose to tap down his multicolor, so he couldn't benefit from any red stuff. And with that, he's just going to pass. Frieza doesn't take damage. When Frieza gets damaged, he flips life face up instead. And then basically, if all your life is face up, you lose the game. We're going to go ahead and charge our secret rare Sin Shenron here as our second energy. Sometimes you just kind of have to do that. We're going to tap 1 for Sorbet. Sorbet lets you look at the top 5 cards for a Frieza army or a yellow unison with a restricted cost of 2 or specified cost of 2. We're going to go ahead and add our 2-drop Frieza here, who is a 5k blocker. It's just a good card you can facilitate out of life, so you want to make sure that you have your pieces so that you can put in your life, which is going to just kind of get the ball rolling here. So the Taguma that we have flipped face up in life doesn't actually get any effects when he's sent to the drop from there, so that's essentially a dead card. But there are ways of taking stuff out of life and replacing it, which we haven't drawn into just yet, but there's not really much to do here. The field card, which you're about to see, does allow you to do some pretty nutty things. Basically, the combination is with Taguma, or Taguma, however you want to pronounce it. You warp him, you send a face-up life to drop, you replace the face-up card from life that you sent, and then you draw a card. So you essentially go even, but it allows you to put stuff in your life face up that you actually want there. So I'm just going over the effect, because obviously I'm new to playing it, and so is Joshua's new to seeing it. So I just want to make sure that I go over everything step by step, so that we're not in a state of confusion. basically Taguma, when he's in the drop area, you can warp him as long as you have 2 energy. You send a face-up life to drop, you draw a card, and then you replace the card from life, and then you draw a card. So that's the order of operations. And then the nifty thing about the field card is once per turn, you can send a face-up battle card and a face-up card in life to the drop area to draw 2 cards, which is nice. It's kind of your draw engine for the deck. And since I did send Frieza from life to drop, I can now tap 1 yellow energy to play him. He's a 19k double striker, which is really nice. And basically what he does is he has an auto where when my opponent plays a battle card, if I send a face-up life to my drop area, I can have that card come in rest mode, and then I negate the skill for the turn. So he's just 19k double strike pressure really early for 1 is really nice. So we're going to go ahead, turn sideways here, 19k double at cooler. And we're going to pass that turn because there's really not much to do. It's okay to tap out in this deck early. You're not going to really get hit too much, especially the combination of not taking damage, but also the field card, just kind of resting your opponent's resources so they can't further push you. And then the longer these cards stay on the board, the more value they're going to get. So we're going to go ahead and pass turn here. Joshua's going to draw on tap. He's going to go ahead and charge that cooler, giving him another blue energy here for turn. And let's see what he decides to do. This is actually my first time playing against Cooler Mill in a tournament. When Cooler was very prevalent in the meta, I wasn't playing the game, so I kind of dodged that whole format. So seeing it in action for the first time was really nifty. So we're going to go ahead. He's going to crack me with Cooler, flip a life face up. I'm going to go ahead and tap his multicolor just because I feel like tapping multicolor energy is the way to go. So it shuts him off from playing red. I know Sensu Bean is a card, but, we got to do what we got to do, right? I mean, he's swinging with his leader. He's not putting battle cards on the board before attacking. So he's playing it very strategically, because obviously if he decides to tap for a battle card, I can then choose to tap that guy if I take damage. So he's using his resources wisely. And it's just kind of one of those things where it makes you think. So this deck is really bad, but I kind of appreciate the thought process behind the gimmick, like behind the archetype's gimmick. I think it's really interesting because it's the only deck that really does it, and I appreciate like the what's the word I'm looking for? The creativity in the design of the archetype. Maybe down the road it could get support to where it's not so bad, but we'll have to see what happens there. Sometimes they're not all winners. Sometimes you do get some duds here and there. But I love playing with quote unquote bad cards and bad decks. It's just more fun for me to try to figure stuff out. And the ultimate goal is that if you're lucky enough to get that win against your opponent, that's like the greatest gotcha ever. So Joshua's gonna go ahead and pass. I'm gonna draw and tap. And we're going to charge our 3rd energy here. It does become kind of difficult charging in this deck because so many of your cards facilitate your strategy. I mean, obviously, if you open multiples, that's different, but you just kind of want to see your pieces. So it feels bad when you have to charge a power card. Luckily, I have the Sorbet here to charge. I did have to charge my secret rare and one of my finishers early. Obviously, that's kind of feels bad, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, right? You got to get there in order to play your power cards. If you don't get there, they're useless. So we're going to go ahead and tap 1 for this Anniversary Box Ginyu. This guy's really nice. You play him for 1, draw a card, and then limit 1, activate main. You can switch him to rest mode. You can add a card from your hand to your life face up, draw a card, and then at the end of the turn, you have to put a face up life from your into your drop area. So he allows you to get those cards out of your hand into your life, which is what you want to do, so that you can go ahead and further your board state, interact with your opponent. The only kind of downside to that is right now Joshua doesn't have a board, so putting stuff in my life right now would be solely for my benefit, and it would have no impact on my opponent's turn. Like it would just be for me to play. Like, there's no response. There's nothing for me to kind of interact with my opponent's board just because Josh is kind of playing it close to the chest. But we need to do stuff. We can't just sit idly by and wait for him to mill us out, right? So we're gonna go ahead and put that Frieza in there. We're gonna tap 1 for this is the Ginyu that takes control of Taguma. He's nice because when he comes into play for 1, you can send a face-up life to the drop, draw 2 cards, and then that will trigger the Frieza from the drop area. So it's nice because this deck kind of has like built-in draw power, which is good for yellow. Like, obviously Icarus draws a lot of cards being a yellow deck, but if yellow decks can draw it well enough, then they'll be able to just kind of get to their power cards, and yellow does really have a lot of strong cards. So by doing the whole Ginyu play, I'm allowed to put the card in my life and then send it to drop off of the other Ginyu to go ahead and play out the Frieza. We're going to swing 19k double strike here into his leader. He's going to go ahead and combo a rival Cooler into play. So basically what Cooler does is when he comes into play, I mill 1, and then he chooses 2 of my cards and negs them by 10k. So I'm going to be losing my blocker Frieza here, as well as 10k power on my 19k battle card. And then every time I get negged by one of his battle cards, his leader triggers and makes me mill a card. So it's just like constant negging and milling, which is rough because you want your pieces to stick to the board, because you either want to have them on the board for fodder or you need them for the field card. So getting your stuff negged is kind of rough. It feels bad, but then again, we're not in a major tournament. It's not a regional. It's not a championship event. It's just locals. So you sometimes you just have to play against your worst matchups. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. I mean, getting your cards negged is never a fun time, and obviously getting milled out is never a fun time. So he combos out of that with his super combo, continues his turn, and then I'm just gonna pass because there's nothing else for me to do here. But I'm okay. I'm in decent shape. I only have basically 1 damage, so to speak. I'm at. It's hard to calculate your health total in this deck, right? Because technically I have 7 life, but I only I have 1 damage, but I have 2 damage technically because I'm at 7 life, but I only have 1 damage because one of my lives is face up. It's hard to explain, but I'm in a good position. You kind of want to awaken later. You don't want to turbo your awaken unless you really have to and start gaining advantage, but you could get away with awakening turn 4-ish with this deck, turn 4, turn 3. You kind of want to do it later on because the field card gives you so many pluses. I mean, tapping down battle cards or energy or leader cards or whatever, drawing cards, it just helps you do stuff. And then once your leader flips, you lose that ability of the field card because you're not going to hard cast it for 10, right? You're not going to replay it. So that's never going to happen. So it's kind of a pick your poison type of scenario where if you awaken, you do get a really strong leader on the backside because he does gain double strike, activate battle timing. But you do lose your field card, which I think the field card is what adds value to this strategy here because it gives you essentially a way to rest one of your opponent's cards every turn. And yellow obviously just wants to do that because that's what yellow does, but then it helps you trigger off support cards. Obviously Bergamo was limited to 1 for a reason. This deck is not the reason Bergamo was limited, but being able to trigger that essentially for free every turn is really nice. So as you can see, if we ran multiple Bergamos with this type of strategy, you could see where it could get out of control. Anyway, I digress. Joshua's going to go ahead and just start attacking because why not, right? Leader swing, draw a card, and then Cooler. Oh, so I comboed the ape to save the Frieza. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. So we comboed the draw ape into the drop area to save our double striker because that's our pressure card right now. We're going to go ahead and charge our 4th energy. We still have 1 life face up. We haven't awakened yet. So, we have things that we could do. The problem is I don't know what the end game for Josh is. Like, if he's just trying to mill me out or if there's, like, a huge boss monster he decides that he wants to play. I don't know where he's going with it, so I'm just kind of playing blindly here. I know that I have to deal with that Cooler because he is a huge problem, but there's not really much in my deck that can deal with it just by attacking, so we're just going to have to get creative here. And he is a 5-drop, so I can't pop him with my Frieza. So let's see what we decide to do here. I mean, what can we do? We don't have anything we can activate on board aside from the field card. That Ginyu in life does nothing for me. So maybe we could go ahead and sack the 2 to draw. Let's see what we decide to do here. We're at 4 energy. It's a really comfortable spot. you could just start playing stuff and start getting value. You don't want to awaken just yet, because even when you awaken, there's nothing in your life that you want to drop to get the double strike, because you're not getting an effect off of it. So you kind of have to pick and choose. We're going to go ahead and tap 2 for Monkey here to draw 2. And, sometimes that helps. I like playing the Draw Ape in this deck because for some reason, if it gets stuck in your life, you could always just send it to the drop area with Leader Skill or with any of your other battle card skills, and then he's just there. It's kind of a virtual plus, if you will, because you don't have to waste the resource of getting him into the drop area. You just kind of get him there. But he is a good card. I'm so glad it was reprinted in the anniversary box. I know it's been reprinted a bunch of times, but I feel like the more in circulation it gets, the easier it is for people to get their hands on. Reprints of powerful, useful cards is always really good for the accessibility to other players, especially with the upcoming anniversary box stuff. Not the anniversary box stuff, the archive booster stuff. Ooh. So I'm going to go ahead and get blown out by an Is That All You've Got? I haven't seen that card in forever, but yeah, it's good. Tap 1. Choose 2 of your opponent's cards and neg them by 15. Pitch a red. Like, that's really good, especially for this cooler strategy that he wants to do here. Yeah, I haven't seen that card since like the set 6 days, I think. Yeah, I think that was a set 6 card. But yeah, I mean, it's a blowout here in this situation. So after getting blown out, we're going to go ahead and activate Tagama. We're going to send him to the warp. We're going to put the Ginyu in life, from life to drop, add the Unison to life, and then draw a card. And then we're going to see what else we could possibly do. Nothing, so we're going to pass. But having the Unison in life isn't bad, because he also gets the effect of coming into play when he's sent from life to drop. Obviously, the good thing about him is that you don't have to pay any energy. He just kind of comes in with a marker, which is nice, because he is a 2-costed Unison. So instead of tapping 2, he would just essentially come in for free with a marker, and then I could just go ahead and do whatever I need to do. The only unfortunate thing about the Ginyu Unison that I found while playing this deck is that it doesn't do too much. It pluses 1 to like life fix your cards. Like, if there's a card in your life you don't want there, you can feed it to him to give him a marker and then replace it with a card from your hand. But then you like, there's no way for you to get that card back. So if it's a Draw Ape, then great, because you want it in the drop area anyway. So if your Unison dies, whatever. Even like a card like Restraint, which is an old counterattack from set 5. Stuff like that gets benefits from being in the drop area, it's fine. But he doesn't do like too much. Coming in for free is nice as a 15k because it's pressure, but his uptick isn't enough. Rejuvenate, you're never going to clear because you need to have 4 markers on him to do it. And it's essentially he just comes in and he's a 15k card. It's almost like it's not even worth playing, because the 1-drop battle cards do so much more. Like, even though Sorbet does look at top 5 for the Unison so you can grab it, the Unison is just not impactful enough. So like, in a future build, if I were to play this, I would I know it sounds crazy, but I would completely cut the Unison, focus on the 1-drops, focus on the cards that need to be in life, and then just play good yellow stuff. That's just how I see it, panning out in the future. So Joshua's going to go ahead and play this other cooler here. This guy's pretty nuts. He's 15k barrier, and then at the end of every of my turns, I have to mill one, so he just sticks there. I have to just try to get rid of him somehow, but we'll see what happens. Joshua is going to go ahead and attack into my battle card, not my leader, so he does not get the draw here, because Cooler only draws when he attacks a lead. So during activate battle, I'm going to Power of a Super Saiyan. I can't target his 15k Cooler because he's got barriers. So I'm going to go ahead and rest the big boy, and because I tapped down one of his cards, I'm going to go ahead and tap 2 for Bergamo. Bergamo's going to come in and tap 2 cards. So we're going to go ahead. I'm pretty sure we're tapping an energy and a multicolor energy and the Cooler here, because he does ignore barrier. So we want to get him in rest mode so we kind of beat over him. And then Cooler is attacking into my Frieza for 10k. And I'm sitting at, I believe, 9. So we're going to go ahead and just combo out of that one just to save my pressure there, because 19k double strike pressure is really good. So Joshua's going to pass turn with 2 blue up. I'm going to go ahead, untap, draw. And I'm on turn 5, still not awakened. So you could kind of see where it's, the ball is in your opponent's court. If they want to aggress you, then they're going to aggress you. If they don't, then that's obviously them. That's obviously their decision as well. But you're never really going to be in a situation where you want to turbo anything out. So it's fine. We're at 5 energy. We can go ahead and we're going to tap 1 here for Ginyu, or that might be Tagama. I forget which one it is. So we're going to activate his skill to send the Ginyu from life to drop. We're going to go ahead and draw 2 cards, which is nice. And then the Ginyu comes out off the skill, and I don't have any face-up life. So I essentially have 0 damage, which is a really good card. I mean, I like the fact that he does that. He also has an effect where if one of my opponent's cards is switched to rest mode, he gains blocker for the turn. So it's nice defensively in combination with the field card. If they decide to attack, you can flip a life, rest something, and now you have a blocker to use to block a beefy, like a big attack. Doesn't really come up too much. He's just there for his draw ability, because I think that draw ability is really good. But we'll see what happens with this deck. I mean, like I said, I had fun playing it. I could definitely see a better build if I just incorporate more good like yellow stuff. So we'll see what happens. We're going to swing with Bergamo here. He's going to go ahead and Oceanus negate me, which I did not see coming. I mean, this is a red-blue deck. I did not see a black counter come in, and she's just so busted. Maybe that's me being bad and not reading into it, since she does have synergy with the milling when, that's her floodgate effect, basically. Is like, if I were to continue to attack, I would have to mill cards. But I just didn't read that. I didn't see that come in. I wish I would have had a cooler in my hand to stop it, because that would have probably helped me in the long run, especially because I would have drawn 2 off of cooler instead of 1, because he's got 6 cards in rest mode. But, it is what it is, right? She's a card. She exists. You got to learn how to play around her. Yeah, I mean, milling 4 for a swing is kind of rough. Like, who's ever going to, who's going to power through that? We're going to go ahead, since he stopped my attack, essentially, you're going to go ahead and we're going to pay 2 for Unite Assemble, which is just going to draw me a ton of cards here, because all of his energy is in rest mode. I tap 2 to draw 2, and then I can go ahead and get Basil out of the deck. And then when Basil comes in, he draws me another card. I'm not going to attack, but I'm going to go ahead and activate main on Basil to make him a 19k. If for some reason he wants to neg him or switch him to rest mode and try to kill him, he'll have to do a little more effort than just negging him by 10. So we're just trying to set up here, survive for the next turn, because that Oceanus negate is kind of cracked, if you ask me. So we're just going to pass with 2 energy open and see what Joshua has in store for us. Now, the whole time I've been milling, I haven't really kept track of how many cards are in deck, but it's not a lot. Like, I'm running out. Like, this deck is only, I think, 51 or 52 cards, and you start with 1 in play, so it's already 1 less. So, yeah, it's not going to be a good time getting to the late game here against Cooler, because obviously the more cards he mills, the more in favor it goes to him. So he's going to go ahead. Did he charge? It doesn't look like he charged. I'm at 5. Yeah, he hasn't charged yet. I don't think he charges this turn. He's going to swing leader to leader. Auto draw. He's still sitting at 6 life. I haven't poked him enough to do damage. I kind of wanted to try and do some damage that turn, but he does have 6 life, so I want to try to do it as efficiently as possible without giving him too many cards, because then that's going to become a problem all on its own. But he's going to go ahead and tap 1 for this Cooler here. Basically, if you control a Cooler, you can bounce 1 back and then play him for 1, which is really nice, because he gets to now reuse his Cooler effect on arrival, which is what he wants to do. Yeah, it's just nice when everything fits and there's a plan and there's synergy, especially seeing it being played for the first time. It's comforting. So we're gonna go ahead and flip a life. We're gonna activate our recovery device. We're gonna tap his multicolor down, which doesn't really matter too much, because his super combos untap multicolor energy. Because I did activate my field card to rest one of his cards, my Tagoma does gain blocker till the end of the turn. So I have a defensive piece there. But again, in a deck like Joshua, where you're going to constantly be negging my battle cards, it's hard for my stuff to stick if it's 10k or less power. So I don't expect Tagoma sticking around too long. I'm just going to probably go ahead and block with it right away if I'm smart. Sometimes I'm not smart, though, so we'll see what happens. That Cooler's artwork is really nice. So he's going to go ahead and switch. He's going to attack, and then he's attacking me. He's attacking my Bergamo. I'm going to block. So now is where the fun starts, right? So he's going to go ahead. He's now attacking Tagoma. So that's on the block. Here we go. So that's blocking Cooler's attack. 15k to 4k. Let's see if he decides to do anything with comboing or anything. Let's see. So he's going to combo the Beerus, which is going to untap a multicolor and then trigger Arrival. So we had a little bit of a discussion here because the timing was tricky. So he swings with Cooler, I block, he combos. I was reading my Frieza to see if I could go ahead and interact with his Cooler, but I'd have to send a face-up life in order to do that, just to switch him to rest mode. So it doesn't negate his skills. He would still be negging stuff, and then I would still be milling because of the leader skill. But, there are other things that we could do here. So we're just trying to, coincide and get on the same page here. On the Arrival play, I am going to call Bloodlust the Cooler. So he comes in, with no skills, which is what I want because I don't want to mill or lose my board if I don't have anything to say about it. So we're just I'm just kind of showing him. I'm going over all of the plays, just making sure that we understand the timing, we understand the sequence, we understand when things trigger and when things resolve. So sometimes it is good to be put in these situations because you could talk through it and then you refresh your memory on how the rulings and interactions work with everything. Like I said, Joshua he's not new anymore. He is a newer player, but there's still some things probably, even myself, I come across time to time that I didn't know. So I just like to make sure that I'm explaining things as it goes because we want to make sure we're on the same page. I don't want anybody to ever feel like they've gotten cheated or that I've misplayed or, obviously I know I've misplayed. I'm not perfect, but I just want to make sure to the best of my knowledge I can sequence the turn and explain it properly so that we're all on the same page. So, yeah. So then the Tagoma dies. I don't know why his Cooler is in... so I did choose to go ahead and do the Frieza on play to send the life to drop to go ahead and put him in rest mode, which is fine because we're going to see why I did what I did here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw. We're going to charge for turn. As you can see, I'm running out of cards in deck. It just looks pathetically thin at this point. But that's what mill does, right? It gets you down to an uncomfortable, unmanageable total. We're going to go ahead and charge. So we're sitting at 6 right now. We have a pretty well set up board, in my opinion. But sometimes that's not the best measure for where you're at in the game state. Because of defensive capabilities from your opponent. So you can have a super wide board, you can have things that you could do, but if your opponent has answers, you're not going to do anything. You're basically at your opponent's mercy, especially now more than ever, when even if you're tapped out, there's a lot of different free counters, there's a lot of, things that you could do. I mean, like I said, that Oceanus negate that I didn't see coming is a house. So if he has another one, then it's going to be a really rough time for us. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to activate Basil, making him a 19k dual attack. We're going to swing here at leader. So 19k to 10. We're trying to get him down to 5. I'm going to power of a Super Saiyan here to rest his Oceanus to draw a card. And just probably leave it at 19, I would say. Just leave him at 19k. there's no point of comboing up. He's not Awaken. He's going to have to burn 2 cards to combo out, so that's fine if that's what he really wants to do. And Basil is a dual attacker. As you can see, I just fanned out my deck. I have maybe like 4 or 5 cards left in there, so we're getting real down to the wire here. So I'm trying to make this last push to see, you know, where I can kind of put myself here, but we're just going to leave it at 19K. He's going to snap take it, which in that instance, I'm going to go ahead and tap 5 for Frieza Divine Transformation. This guy is basically your boss monster. We're going to move the deck to the side there. He's a 5-drop deflect 25k double strike blocker. Basically, when he comes into play, you can put one of your face-up lives face down, which doesn't apply here, but he does then, if your leader is yellow, choose all your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO them. At the end of the turn that he's played, he restands. And if your opponent activates a counter skill while he's on the board, you can choose 2 of their cards, switch them to rest mode, and they do not untap until the start of they don't untap at the start of the next turn. So they would basically just freeze there until, you know, the end of his next turn when he can start untapping stuff. So, I mean, it's essentially not a board wipe because the one cooler has barrier, but we got rid of a lot of different problem cards, which is ultimately going to help me try to push for game here. So, we have our second attack with Basil being that 19k dual attack that he is. Very nifty. We're just waiting to see how I'm going to sequence this. We're going to go ahead and Awaken, because I can finally do that since I'm at 5 life. You could do that at 5 life, or if you have 3 face-up life, you can go ahead and sack your field card and flip over. Unfortunately, I don't get any value on my leader on the back, because he has an Activate Battle where if you send a face-up life to drop, he gets 5k and double strike for the battle. Which would have been nice because it's another attacker, but I don't have a valid target in life to do that. So we're just going to go ahead and try and pressure as much as we can here. Swing with my Frieza 19k double strike into his leader. That's where we're at right now. So I guess he's just deciding if he's going to counter that or if he's going to go ahead and take it so he can put himself in awakening range. He's gonna tap. What is he doing here? What is he doing? Come on, Joshua. What are you doing, Joshua? So it's okay when you play against cards that you've never seen or you haven't seen in a long time. You know, it's quite all right to like question like what everything does. As a matter of fact, like that's really what you should do always, just to make sure that something doesn't get overread or overlooked, because it does happen. You know, sometimes the card pool is so vast right now, and there's a lot of cards that are never, and there's another Oceanus negate, so this just pretty much seals my fate, right? The card pool is so vast, and there's so many cards that are unplayed that when you go and revisit them, you know, there's the whole logic of reading the card and understanding what the card does and then committing that to memory. But then there's the scenario where you just kind of glance through it and then you think it works a certain way and it actually doesn't. So I know I fall privy to that a lot, where I think a card does certain things and then it doesn't. And I know a lot of other people do the same things. We just choose not to read exactly what's printed on the card. But it does happen. So, you know, if you're not sure of something, or even yourself as the player or the op, whatever it is, whatever situation you come across, if you're not sure of something, ask. Because if you don't ask, then at the end of the day, if something happens where it changes the outcome of the game because of something that you didn't clarify, you're gonna kick yourself in the ass for it. So that Oceanus Floodgate is slowly becoming my least favorite card, just because you think you're gonna do something and then nothing happens. I mean, out of all of the Floodgates, you know, Topo, Majin Buu, Nimbus, Dormant Potential, Heroic Prospect, out of all the Floodgates, I can honestly say Oceanus is my least favorite, because I hate milling. I come from playing against Janemba Mill many moons ago, and I hate milling. But in a deck that where I'm playing this Frieza life deck, and I can smell like end game. I can smell where I'm gonna push him in for game. just for her to come out on the table and just completely stop me. Because if it's any other floodgate, right? If it's any other floodgate, I could attempt to try to fight through it, right? Like if I have a big enough hand size, you could attempt to fight through a Topo or a Boo. If you have enough energy, you could attempt to fight through a Robotic Riposte. But Oceanus, you can't, because every time you swing, you mill 4 cards. And in a strategy that wants you to mill out, you're giving them the win by doing that. So it's like I have no control, over anything. It's just literally slap her on the table and that's it. Your turn is essentially over. So out of frustration, I'm going to tap out here. I'm sorry. I'm on defense. I'm tapping for Nimbus here, so he can't go wide. We're going to go ahead and tap for Nimbus, negate the leader swing, and we're going to pitch that U9 Assemble. He does get to draw. I think he drew a card off because he was attacking my leader, but I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to make one more push here on my next turn. I probably have maybe 3 cards in deck left, so I have to be very, very careful what I do, because any type of draw auto that I have to resolve or any type of attempt at a super combo I try to make is going to draw me cards. So you got to be super careful here. So by flying Nimbus, by activating Flying Nimbus on his leader swing, I'm essentially putting him in a spot where he can only attack with 1 more battle card or Unison. But he doesn't have a battle card he can attack with. So if he wants to, he could technically attack with Oceanus and combo up. But if he wants to put pressure, he's going to have to tap energy to play a resource or play a Unison that can swing. And you're just kind of doing me a favor because you're using your energy, right? So he's just going to go ahead and pass. He's going to go ahead and pass with 4 energy open. I'm going to go ahead and untap and draw. Probably have 2 cards left in deck here, I would say, if I remember correctly. Do I decide to charge 7 is the question. I don't think I charge 7 because I'm at 6 right now. I don't think I charge the 7th card. So I just kind of have to try and navigate the muddy waters that is Cooler Mill, because if I get milled out, I lose. And that's just what it is, right? I could be at 12 life, I could be at 1 life, it doesn't matter. Like if you mill out and you have no more cards in deck, you lose the game. So we have to be very, very careful here in what we do. We have a very nice board. I can't activate Basil because he doesn't have 5 cards in rest mode, but we have a very nice board built up. We're going to go ahead and swing 19k double to lead. Let's see if he decides to counter here. If he slaps another Oceanus down on the table, I would probably cry at this point. Like, getting Oceanus twice in a row is so bad. Oh, he's actually going to take it. So he takes it, goes down to 3, but now he can awaken. Cooler's untap 1, draw 1. So we're going to go ahead and Bergamo into his leader. That's 20k. So I'm smelling the awaken here. Untap that multicolor, draw a card. And let's see where he goes off from here. Still have the Frieza double striker. I still have my Unison and my leader and a Basil. Right now, Basil's not really doing much, but he's there if in case, my opponent does decide to start tapping cards, I could probably use Basil to move it up. So we're going to go ahead and combo up to 25. He's going to awaken, untap his multicolor here. Sitting at 15, draw a card. Let's see what we got. What you got, my mans? What you got? I'm sitting at 25. So you need 30 to combo out. There's so many ways this could go. It's kind of disgusting. Trying to force him down from 5 to 3 was a chore. Now trying to get this last damage on him so I could shotgun into this Frieza. What is that? Ooh. So he taps 1 for the combo on the Hercule Boo, which is a red-blue. Then he taps a red for Cooler Arrival, which Cooler Arrival basically what he does is when he comes in, I mill a card. And then he minuses 10k 2 of my cards. And then for each card he minus, his leader gets to mill me a card. So if I let this resolve, I think this is game, because I think I only have 3 cards left in deck, or 2 cards left in deck. So essentially I would just be milling 2 and losing here. I've already resolved Cold Bloodlust earlier in the game, so I definitely don't have that. So I'm just trying to see if there's something that I could do to stop me from losing. 1. So he mills 1 off play. and he mills the last card off of leader. And as you can see, that's it. I mean, I had a lot of fun playing against Joshua. Seeing Cooler Mill in action was really refreshing because I'd never got to experience that before. But Life Flip Frieza, man, listen, on paper, it's not the greatest. It's really not. It's kind of clunky. It's kind of bad. You know, maybe if it gets future support down the road. But I will tell you this, guys. If you like, you know, playing fun decks at locals, like if you don't want to be sweaty one week and you want a deck that really makes you think and really makes sure that your sequencing is crispy and like flawless, give it a whirl. At the end of the day, if we're not having fun playing the game, then what's the point? Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything No Counters, No Combos. We really do appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.